So, hi everyone, welcome to Step In Mom podcast or YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening. And today I have a really special guest with me. It's Maya Murphy, who is child sleep coach. And I just love her work. We met on Instagram through our common friend. And I just love her tips and what she does and how she's supporting parents online. But Maya, welcome here, and please tell us more about you because I can't do the justice.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all. A little bit about me. I had no idea what a sleep consultant was until I had children, and my first didn't really sleep too much. I come from a banking background, so sleep and banking are totally opposite to each other. And on my first child, I after she was born, sleep was something that wasn't spoken about. It wasn't something that was included in any information that you're given through pregnancy and any antenatal classes. So when she was born and she didn't sleep, I actually had no idea what was going on. And it was such a shock because you can try and prepare for being a mom, especially a new mom, but nothing really compares or prepares to actually doing the job. And it was absolutely horrendous when she did not sleep. And then there's no break from being a mom because you're up the next morning, regardless of what's gone overnight. So when I found help with a sleep consultant after months and months of trying medical professionals, my doctor, my health visitor, when I found a sleep consultant online, she changed my life. And that's what I did. I changed my career to train and certify to be a sleep consultant and help families the way I got help. And I just felt that if I can share the words that there's help out there, you don't have to struggle with sleepless nights, then it's something that I'm giving a gift to other parents and giving them their sleep back. But it helps the whole family, it helps the child, and it helps the parent, because not only when a child isn't sleeping, it just has a knock-on effect to every single thing in family life, and it makes it be a challenge. So that's a bit about how I got into being a sleep consultant, and I love my job, and I'm doing it 4 years now, and it's flown by because I love it so much. And not many people could say that they love their job. I really do. So I'm so blessed because of I found what I love, and helping others is just something that, it's so rewarding. It's such a rewarding thing to be able to do.
And that's brilliant because I love stories like that when someone's like, I struggle, and then I turn it around. And
Yeah.
actually, now it's my passion and it's something I love to do. And you helping because I know from your Instagram all this, feedbacks you're receiving from parents. And it's just amazing because parents really do struggle, and we are doing okay. We are doing good with our little one. My little one is 19 months old now, but my cousin, they have a boy that is a few months older, and they are having really hard time. The boy is just like not having a sleep. It's just exhausting, and it has a massive impact on the parents. And when I told my husband about it, I told him all the details about the situation, and he said, "Well, why you didn't help her, or why you didn't tell her what we do?" And I
Yeah.
said, like it's like, "Ugh." It's really tricky to go to parents and moms who struggle and tell her, "Here is what we do. Why you don't do that?" You just don't know where is the line where someone is trying ask for help but
Yeah.
doesn't ask, and someone who is like just sharing and not interested in your tips. But why do you think parents are often afraid of asking for help? Because for example, I don't understand why she's not asking for help, because they really struggle and they're suffering a lot.
I know it's really hard, and it's a sensitive subject because you don't want to step on someone else's toes, even though you see they're struggling. But even if you offered help to them, Sleep is complex in children, and you're at the risk of saying the wrong thing to do because you don't know all the ins and outs of what is going on behind closed doors, first of all, and what exact sleep needs that child they need to be met with. And what I found that I speak to hundreds of parents, you know, year in, year out, they basically feel like a failure asking for help. And it's really, really sad, but they feel like a failure to ask for help because they think that they should know how to get their little one to sleep. And it's really sad because, you know, they can't even say these things to their best friend, never mind your partner, but your best friend is somebody who you will say anything and everything to, and they can't because of that feeling of being a failure, being judged. And, you know, people think the grass is always greener, that everybody else is great, and it's not the truth. But they also, why should they feel a failure that they don't know what to do and help their child to sleep if they've never been shown? Because it's something that they're not shown. It's something that clearly, if they search online, there's so much information that's really, really confusing, and it can be quite overwhelming to know what is the right step to take. So therefore, they plod along, time goes by, and mostly the situation tends to get worse because if children struggle with sleep, it doesn't just go away. You've got to make a few changes and do a little bit of work, make those improvements for the situation to get better. So it's just that sense of feeling like a failure because they should know what to do, and therefore they're too afraid to ask for that help. And that's what I hear all the time, and I felt that way as well. And then sometimes when you ask for help, if what you try doesn't work, they try it for one night. You've got to try changes and be consistent for a long time. So they give up too soon and then just resort back to struggling by, basically. So
It is really hard. And what I, you know, hear from you and what I, you know, from my marriage and my cousin's relationship, I can see that like they, you know, the partner sees differently sometimes, you know, that usually the moms or whoever is, you know, the primary care for the child is the one who's more invest, the one who is more tired. But then when it comes to decisions like that, like, okay, are we hiring someone? Are we looking for something? You know, from your experience, what the couples are usually dealing with
yeah,
between
like
themselves.
I've had marriage breakups because of lack of sleep. It is a big deal, especially with relationships, because when baby's in bed, that's the only time you have together, right?
Mm.
And the majority of the time, not all the time, but the majority of the time, mums are on longer maternity leave than dads. So because they're at home more, it's like the responsibility just shifts to mum because they're at home more. They're not up for work to go to an office the next day for an early train. So therefore, mums tend to carry the can with sleep. Now, when that happens, it's mums that struggle more if they're the stay-at-home parent than dads if they go to work because they don't see everything that's going on. Half the time, mom would be up overnight and dads would sleep through it, and they don't really connect because they don't talk too much about it. And then mom feels if they're talking, dad isn't really listening, and they just separate with their views. So dads are usually more skeptical. Why do I have to pay somebody? Can you not do it? Like, what's the problem? And try this, try that, and have all these great ideas, and none of it works. Okay. And I'm not labeling mom and dad in those roles. It's just an example. It can be dad's at home, mum goes to work, whatever. It's usually one parent has more of the work to do with sleep. Now, when that communication breaks down, especially for me, I felt like I was moaning all the time about no sleep. My husband was fine. I kind of resented him going to work because I was left up all night. He'd go to work. He was mingling with friends and work and whatever goes on outside in work. I know he was doing a job, but that social aspect was there as well. But I was at home not really sleeping overnight. And then I had this baby who wakes up all day and needs 24/7 care. And when you're not getting that rest yourself, myself, I resented him from going to work. And then come the weekend, I didn't want to do anything because I was so tired and we had no life together because of that sleep deprivation. So it's not only affecting how you feel mentally and physically, but it's relationships even with yourself and your partner and sometimes your child. I wasn't pretty happy with my daughter a lot when she wasn't sleeping, and I just found it hard with that sleepless night stage to love her as much as I wanted to, because this little person was making me feel a version of what I was. And I'm not afraid to admit that, but that's the raw feelings of what I went through. And it is real, it is a thing, and it's not talked about as well.
Mm. It is, and thank you for saying that and making the points because and sharing your story, because I can relate to that so much. Even if we had this deal with my husband that he's, making the money now, and he's like, I said, don't worry, you sleep, I do the night shifts. But then he's snorer, so he snores, but he
Okay.
snores. So what it ended up, I actually kicked him out of the bedroom for a year, and I said, you have to go to different room because it's like as soon as the baby sleep and it's okay, you start snoring,
Mm.
or you snore through everything, all the crying, you sleep through everything. And I had so much rage in the middle of the night. And I was like, I just wish I could just punch him.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
this is just like so much resentment and hate to, someone who I love, and it's just, I said, this is not good, this is absolutely not good for us. So he ended up sleeping in the different room because I was like, otherwise this is just not going to end up well. But at the same time, you said that you had a hard time or difficult time to connect with your daughter at some point. you know Mumma Rage is such a huge thing, and I don't know if you experienced that, but I still experiencing it. And when I am tired, I get upset, and I experience mom rage so quickly.
Yes.
And it's, I argue with my husband. It was actually a bit funny because when we were talking about what we're going to talk about today, you suggested this topic, and I said, oh, I love it, because a few hours ago, my husband told me something. He just made a funny comment, but because I was so exhausted from the night, I just snapped. And he didn't
Yeah.
understand why I snapped. It's like, why would you, what, this is funny. It was like, you would never react to comment like that this way. And I said, I'm exhausted.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And what happens when you're that tired, we all have a tolerance window. And sometimes the tolerance window will be up here. And we can tolerate things, everything's okay. You don't have to be in an amazing mood, but your tolerance window is up here. When you're tired, that window comes down. Okay. And then down when you're really, really tired. So anything that's said that comes through that window, usually it will be up here and you can take it and you're not bothered. But when that tolerance window is down, it's totally different. And it's not the thing that's said, it's who says it, the way that it's said, but also everything behind how you feel. That one thing is just that trigger through your tolerance window to get you annoyed or upset or not very happy.
Mm.
It's, yeah, 100% can relate to that. 100%.
So what do you think would be like, what are your the best tips for exhausted parents?
Yeah. It's tricky because the only way you're going to clear that exhaustion, you're carrying around a sleep debt. So when you're missing sleep, it all adds up and you carry around a sleep debt. But the only way to clear that sleep debt and get rid of that exhaustion is to actually sleep, which is simple, but not realistic if you've got a child that you're tending to lots of times overnight, especially. So the only way around that is to make a deal with each other. And I know you said that you had a bit of a deal with your husband, but you've got to make a deal with each other and stick to both ends of the deal. It's the only way to tag team and share the load and work through it together, because otherwise you're not going to go forward. But the biggest challenge is opening up, talking about how you feel, how he feels, what you are actually doing in the day and night, what you are or you are not sleeping, and kind of doing a little bit of a list together, just verbally. And then when you share what you're actually doing, your partner can see what you're going through and vice versa. And then you can make a bit of a plan and a deal together that you tag team, and you both keep your end of the deal and you work through it together and try and catch up on sleep. That's one thing. The second thing is to not be shy. Reach out to family or friends and ask for help. You just need to ask for help with washing, or can they come and take baby for a walk so you can have a rest? You may not sleep, but just that rest, or anything as small as it is, ask for that help, because all these small tasks that you've got to do all add up to one big, huge list. So asking for help. And then the main thing is getting to the root of the problem of why you're not sleeping. And if it's a child who's a little bit older and you're up a lot doing something that they've got a habit of, for example, if you've got a 2-year-old and you're up 10 times in the night giving the dummy back, then that's something that can be changed. It's something they don't really need at that age. So tackling the root of the problem of sleep, doing a little bit of work on that is the main thing. But it always depends on the child and their age, and if all of the other areas you work on isn't really getting results, and it is just about helping baby sleep, then that's the priority. But you don't have to do sleep training for that. You can work on all those other areas first. But it's talking, it's making a date in the diary to sit on the sofa, TV off, and talk. And that's hard. It is a hard thing to do, even though it's an easy thing to do. And it takes courage. And lots of people don't like confrontation, but you don't have to have an argument. You just have to have an adult, calm conversation, cup of tea on the sofa, no TV, and get it off your chest first, and then make a plan.
It's amazing, because I can really like that. Talking to you before, I knew it's like, oh, I need to be kind of okay with my husband talking to each other about, how we feel or what's going on. But it's really when it comes to motherhood, there's this huge mom guilt, which is enormous. And that's just another topic for another day. But
Yeah.
it's horrific how much is impact, how much does impact moms, and even the relationship with my husband, because I say, the mom guilt is just like, oh, if I admit it that I don't do well or I struggle, how he will see me, or then I feel guilty that I'm not connecting with my child, or I'm getting angry, or the baby is crying, and I'm letting him crying out, or it's just so much, and there's such a big pressure on the relationship. And I was saying, just have a plan and stick to it. Let's just have sex,
Yes.
like, stick to it together. I'm definitely doing it way more than before we did. But I think it's really important to, kind of update the plan as well. How
Yeah.
you were talking about sleep training, or like you just adjust all the time. You just need to learn and progress. And same with my husband. And I was like, I know our deal was this before, but now I need, once in a while, I need to put the earplugs in, the proper one, I mean, so I can have a night sleep, because you're snoring so much. So now you have the child, you're on the parent duty. And I do it in a ways like that it doesn't impact his schedule so much. So I know when he has a busy day tomorrow, I probably wait for the next day, or I do
Yes.
it. But it's very important to just, be in communication, like, what do you need?
Yeah. And like even on a Sunday night, if you know the week ahead, you can plan for that week. And parents say to me, oh, dad doesn't get home till 8:30 in the evening. But it's very unusual that, one parent is working every single night. Usually it's a weekend, dads are home and mums are there during the week or vice versa. So there was no excuse to share bedtime, for example, doing a bedtime routine or overnights. Okay, there is no excuse unless you've got somebody who works 7 days a week, every week, which is very unusual, that they're not there to help. Then you can negotiate and you can come to some form of agreement that suits your family. And if it changes on a week by week basis, on a Sunday evening, 15 minutes after dinner, okay, what's the plan for the week? And then share whatever's going on, because otherwise it's so easy to fall into a pattern that, for example, one parent does bedtime every single night. That is not sustainable. And therefore, when we have a reliance on one parent all the time, it becomes a bit of a chore. Baby doesn't really understand why the other parent is doing bedtime, and it just excels, frustration. And I've had dads do bedtime when mums have had an evening out with the girls and she had to come home because the baby wasn't used to the other parent. And that's not fair for anybody, because, so it's just all about trying to share the load. It's never going to be 50-50, but at least make it some form of a plan that you can share together with your family unit and working around your lifestyle. And it's definitely achievable, 100% achievable when you put your mind to it together.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And this is now like kind of like a tricky question, but I was talking to a friend of mine and she was asking me about Theo's sleep. And I told her, what's going on. And I must say he's doing good. And it's always work in progress, isn't it? It's just like keep adjusting, keep changing, like whatever helps him and us. And her answer was, "Are you so lucky? You have a good sleeper."
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking, I just finished the conversation and then I went on. I was like, is there such a thing as a good sleeper?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it, are they born or are they made good sleepers? Because, not like I'm looking for validation for our sleep training or
Yes.
I want to show off, but this is more about when you hear it, a lot of parents are like, well, our baby is not a good sleeper.
Yes.
I find it like, it's like, well, this is it and we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. So the foundation for a baby's body clock is set in the womb. So the fluctuation hormones of mom, day and night, they set that body clock for the baby when they're in the womb. Okay. So baby's born. All babies are born with the ability to self-settle and be a good sleeper. But there are some challenges that happen. So we've got medical challenges, like if a baby, like my girl had reflux, that contributed to her not being a good sleeper. So there's medical challenges that you may have when baby's born that will contribute them to being not such a good sleeper. But there's also habitual associations that we accidentally do that will contribute to them not being such a good sleeper. And habitually, newborn babies usually feed to sleep or fall asleep in arms all the time, and that is absolutely fine. The tricky part is the older they get, the more they rely on that happening. And then we get into a situation where 4, 5, 6 months go by and baby has just learned to only fall asleep on the boob or the bottle and fall asleep in arms. So when we try and put them in the cot or their crib, they don't like it and they're back up in arms again. And I've done this. This is what happened with me as well. So we accidentally introduce sleep habits that baby uses to fall asleep. And that's what they learn and that's what they need. And they just grow with that association of this is how I go to sleep. So in answer to your question, yes, babies are born with the ability to be a good self-settler and sleep well. We have to work on sleep as they grow and meet their sleep needs. But the caveat to that will be medical challenges will obviously contribute to sleep, as well as habitual associations that they learn as they grow older. So I'm not saying, oh, we can't feed baby or rock baby or have baby in arms. You absolutely can, But when it becomes a situation that's the only way they know how to sleep, and they get a little bit older and heavier, and that's not sustainable anymore, those accidental sleep habits have crept in that we need to remove. And that's where they just get a little bit confused about how to go to sleep, because they just need mom or dad to help them. And then when they go into the cot, they just don't know what to do. So we have to, there's a mixture of things, but all babies are born to have that ability to self-settle.
Well, that's really good to know, because I believe that a lot of parents have, as I said before, they said like, well, our baby is not just a good sleeper. And then instead of, asking for help or thinking like, oh, actually, that's not a thing. I can transform it. I can do something about it. And this is important because, all these like labels and we keep labeling kids ourselves with, these sort of titles, labels, would you like? And it's like, it's not really important because that is adding so much pressure on
Mm,
us, and it makes us like giving up, or just suffering even more instead of dealing with the issue. And I believe really the good sleeper is one of the labor which is like, you know,
yeah, and you can always make improvements. There's going to be conditions, medical, developmental and things like that. It's like it's an exception, but you can always make improvements to sleep.
that that
100,
yeah, that's important to know that, like, yeah, there are conditions that
yeah,
will make it really hard to deal with it, but at the same time, even little help or little
yeah,
transformation could be,
yeah. And it's
amazing for.
those smallest things make the biggest difference when you know what to change. Those tweaks, the small tweaks make the biggest difference. It's just knowing what's applicable for your child at their age. And honestly, even if, for example, a 13, 14-month-old baby on 2 naps, and then they have early wakes and they're up lots overnight, they may just need a nap transition. You do that 2 to 1 nap transition, everything changes. So simple tweaks, knowing the right way to do it, can just change a situation hugely. And, I've been there, I've done this twice with my 2 children. So I've gone through, my eldest had reflux, so she was born with that medical condition that had to do a bit of work on, and her sleep wasn't as good. My son was not reflux baby, but he had different challenges, so they're all so different as well. So that's where the confusion element comes in. But once you know the tweak to make for your child, it does make a huge difference.
But I would always suggest, like, it, we were at the point when I said, at some point I was like, okay, we try one more thing. And if this is not working, I am hiring someone. I'm calling Maria and I'm in, because I said, I'm done with Googling, Instagramming, trying to figure it out, listen to all this advice, that people are giving me, because I was like, no, I'm done, because this is just, it can be so confusing. And as you said, because like for you, it must be as well when clients come and they said, we try everything.
Yes. When clients come to me, they always Google, which is great. And Instagram, obviously, everybody does. The problem with generic sleep plans that you find, they're just written, they're not tailored for the specific child. And there's so much more that's involved. We look at developmental, food, their age, their actual sleep habits, what we need to change. So there's so much involved. And lots of moms think, and dads, oh, I'll just do the cry it out. You don't have to do the cry it out. You can sit beside your child, comfort them to sleep in a different way to what they're used to, be hands on, touch them, talk to them without walking out of the room. Because most of the time, the cry it out is really, really hard. I did it and I failed because I couldn't do it. But parents leave baby cry for way too long. The adrenaline and the cortisol kicks in with baby and they get in such a state. Now, making sleep changes, they may cry. I have not found a sleep solution that doesn't involve any tears. And if it does, I would love to be proved wrong. But there is going to be some, if you have a baby fed to sleep and then you put them in the cot fully asleep, And then the next night you put them in awake, they're going to cry because they're confused. They don't know what to do, and they don't know how to handle those feelings. So there's going to be some element of tears, but you don't have to leave the room. You don't have to walk out of the room and leave them cry. And that's the one thing parents find online. They try it. It doesn't work because you have to work at other areas, not just that particular settling at sleep time. And then it makes the situation even worse because the next time you put baby down, they think they're going to be left and they will cry straight away. And they're like little monkeys, hold on to you. And it just excels the situation. And that cry it out method is one that lots have used. And it's one that comes up in lots of searches, but you can do it in a much gentler way. So the internet can be confusing and it can leave you feeling you don't know what to do. But when you do try something, you've got to try it for like 7 to 10 nights and be consistent. It doesn't just change in one night, and they don't give it a chance as well. So that's what the internet, I find, doesn't tell you. It doesn't give you a proper, the support element of a method to use. And they're all very, very generic. Some work, some don't. So it's good to try, but just be mindful of what you're going to try yourself. And if you do try, stick it out 100% to avoid confusing baby.
That's beautiful because I can hear how you're helping with the sleep training, not just the babies, but the parents, or mainly the parents. Because, when you're talking about what you do, it's really, adjusting step by step. It's gentle. So it's gentle for the parents as well. Like you said, I couldn't do crying out. It's just heartbreaking. It's hard. It's like, no. And this is what I think a lot of parents are experiencing when you sleep training. It brings stress.
Yeah.
And anxiety that like you have to deal with crying and upset, and everybody's gonna get upset,
Yeah.
instead of doing it and asking for your help and doing it gentle for whole family.
I think the difference is during the day, a baby's going to cry for many reasons. But when you're making a change at night, the guilt comes in because you're causing those tears. You're putting baby down awake rather than after being fallen asleep on your boob. And that makes it harder to handle. That crying goes away quite quickly. And if the baby was going to crawl out onto the road, you would drag them back and you wouldn't care if they cried. But when we're doing it and we're actually putting baby in, and if they cry, we feel responsible for those tears. So it makes it harder. But it just depends on if you want to get to sleep, if you want to make changes to help your little one improve their sleep. That's that change that will be met with some protest that will go away really quickly if you get it right. And I'm talking, really, really quickly, like 2-3 nights. So it's really quick. And most of the time, there's been months and months of, feeding to sleep happening. So you've got to also think, well, if my baby's going to sleep on the boob all the time and I transfer them to the cot, a couple of nights, you need to undo all of what that baby has learned for the months before. So it's just about being sensible and realistic with expectations as well. But it's something that I do day in, day out. And honestly, it's just so good to see when you make a change, the results that you can get. And yes, parents feel anxiety and stress, but they tend to feel that anyway when they're up lots overnight, especially. So it's just a bit of a balancing where we're going to shift those feelings to and having light at the end of that tunnel.
Oh, beautiful. It is a beautiful, like and cherry on top of the cake from you. Yeah, where we can find it, because obviously I will be adding links to descriptions everywhere, but where we can find you, because you're doing an amazing job.
Well, what I do is, because some people just might have a question, they don't want to like have a phone call or anything, they may just have a question. So on Wednesdays on Instagram, I do a live Q&A. So I send out a little post, you can put your question in and I answer your question. And they're working really, really well. They're really popular. So that's one quick fire way of asking a question, getting an answer, and that's it. If you want a bit more, if you want to talk to me about what's going on, find out what improvements you can make to your child's sleep and how it would all work. No obligation calls are offered to parents for this reason. And you could book a free 15-minute call with me. You could book it by Instagram or on my website. And then if you want a little bit more work, I offer like 30-minute packages or full-on plans to encourage self-settling. So there is a nice range of options depending on what a parent's needs are. But there's always a free 15-minute call. If you don't know what you need, talk to me, share with me what's going on. I may give you some advice that you can work with yourself, or if we need to work together, I'll explain those details to you.
Brilliant. I love the Wisdom Wednesdays, by the way. They are my favorite
Yeah,
Wednesdays.
they are so popular and I do them on the fly. So they're just really, ask me a question, I'll answer it, and I could be anywhere. It could be at the car, it could be on the sofa. So I always usually commit to a Wednesday because there's somebody there as an expert. You can ask a sleep question, and that's not really available where I've seen. So use it. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer your questions.